Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli and tonight my guests are, first up, the ladies call him Fat Man Poop, but we just call him Danny. Hello, Danny.
It's not the ladies, you call me that. Nobody else calls me that.
I'd call you far worse than that.
I know, it's horrible.
I
Sad.
know. Should we move on to the next
Uh,
person? Next up, joining us tonight, fresh from a day of picking leeks and daffodils and waving to passing sheep, it's Welsh Justice himself, Jason Davies. Hello, Jace.
You cheeky bugger.
Did you like the Welsh lilt in your introduction?
No, not really.
Fair enough. Next up, the man, the myth, the Rev. It's Raj Patel. Hello, Raj.
Hello, Gim. How are you?
Very well, thank you. We're getting through this nice and quickly tonight.
It's perfect.
Have you had a good week?
I have now, after last night.
Oh, I think we all have. And finally, joining us for a third time on the show, it's a pleasure to introduce to you Rafi Honigstein. Hello, Rafi.
Hello.
And how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back on the show. We understand that you've got very, very limited time this evening, so we're going to jump straight into a little bit of a Q&A with you. And the first question pretty much is, we understand that you've got a book out at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
I can, of course. It's called Das Reboot, and it charts the history of Germany's World Cup triumph, but also the underlying history of German football at national level, also at club level, coming to grips with having missed the boat really at the turn of the century and making the necessary reforms and changes and bringing in interesting ideas and bringing in interesting people to the point where they're once again where they should be, which is at the forefront of European football. And the story sort of jumps between the team in Brazil, going game by game, and also explaining a little bit about these various characters and their backgrounds, and the stuff that happens a little bit earlier, but then continues to happen, and then culminates really in 2014, where suddenly you have 21 out of 23 players in the squad having gone through the youth system, which had been overhauled in 2000.
Very good. Jace, I understand you've got a question regarding the book, haven't you?
Yeah. You talk about some of the journey from the turn of the century to now, from the Klinsmann 10-year plan to the guys using WhatsApp to disseminate training sessions and so forth. What, in your opinion, was the most important part of German football's rebirth? Is there any particular aspect of what they did which you thought, wow, that's such a great idea?
Well, it's a little bit like with every good ideas. In hindsight, they seem incredibly obvious, and you think, why didn't we think about this earlier? I think it's been small steps and small different areas that have been addressed. But if I had to narrow it down to one specific area, I would say it's the quality of the youth coaching, because in 2000, you had about 6 million German people playing football. That number hasn't changed. What has changed is the quality of the players that are being produced. It's still the same overall number, but if you're good, you have a much better chance of being coached by very, very good coaches who then give you a better chance of actually making it in the Bundesliga, who then give you a better chance of actually making it in the national team, and so on. So it's a question of numbers and quality. And in a way, it's not rocket science. If you take one of Europe's biggest economies and biggest countries, football crazy country, and throw a bit of money and expertise at it, chances are you will have some decent output. And it's, in hindsight, almost a mystery how Germany got it so badly wrong for a period of time. Now they're just doing what they really should be doing, which is to be one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something like they get 10 times more accredited coaches than the English setup has, isn't it? It's around there.
Yeah, that's roughly speaking right, and I think it goes all the way through to the youth teams now. You walk through Munich, and every other corner there'll be a club, there'll be a small club providing education most of the time with coaches who have qualified youth coaching license, and they have to keep keep going to seminars, keep learning from better coaches, getting better coached themselves, and then in turn becoming better at coaching youngsters. And it's created a very professional type of production line, where it's no longer the case that you just happen to be the uncle of the captain of the local club and have got nothing else to do on a Thursday night. That's why you're coaching the under 12s. It is now a highly professional setup, and people look at your qualifications all the time, and if you're not good enough, then somebody else will come in, because now you have objective qualifications that attract a whole new stratus of people. Think of it a little bit of, being a lawyer. Let's say 500 years ago, you could be a lawyer if your dad was a lawyer. That kept the amount of lawyers fairly small. But the moment that somebody said, these are the objective criteria you have to fulfill if you go and study, you can become a lawyer, then that just opens up the job to so many people who never thought about it before. And coaching is exactly the same. Since these qualifications have come in, and since it's become a job profile in a way, smarter and smarter people have been attracted to it than before.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. I know Raj has got a question for you next. Raj? Hello? Raj?
Hello.
Maybe.
Yeah, hi. Sorry about that. Rafa, it's Raj here. I haven't read your book, but I know a couple of people who have, and I promise you I'll read the book in the next few days. One of the guys who read the book said he was very fascinated by a section on, is it Ralph Ragnick? You mention him and talk about his kind of methods, his progressive methods in coaching football. Can you give us a little bit more about what he was about and how he contributed to German football?
Well, Ralf Rangnick was one of the pioneers in German football at the late 90s, starting to play four at the back, which was still a novelty at the time, starting to play a very aggressive pressing game, which also was more or less unheard of. You'd had pressing, but it was usually in your own half. It was usually only by a few players. People still thought about all men behind the ball and waiting for things to happen, and playing with a sweeper. Even in 2002 at the World Cup, Germany still started a tournament playing a sweeper system. That's not that long ago. And he modernized things, and his ideas that were gained from studying VHS cassettes from Arrigo Sacchi's Milan and hanging out with Lobanovsky when he came over with Dynamo Kiev and would train in Italy, and he would go up there and watch the training to find out what these guys were doing. His ideas have proved hugely influential, and through people like Tuchel, who trained under him and then became a coach under him at Stuttgart, through people like Jürgen Klopp, who was his rival in the second division as a coach for Mainz. These ideas have now almost become the new orthodoxy in German football. You will find more teams playing that highly aggressive, concerted pressing game than teams who don't do it. Even teams getting promoted to the league will not sit behind the ball. They will press all over the pitch, and it's really through him and his success that German football, in a way, became tactically astute again and embraced modernity belatedly.
You mentioned that Jurgen Klinsmann had a 10-year plan, which, am I right in saying that culminated in the 2006 World Cup, and that his plan was to change the way the German international team would play, basically? Was that right? That his plan was the one that was adopted by the international committee?
No, it's a little bit different. I mean, he was only in charge for 2 years, but when he came in, he said, let's not just think about 2 years. Let's think about where we want to be in 10 years' time. Let's really think very hard where German football is going. And most of his changes were done at the top, at national team level, when it came to selection, when it came to the style of play, when it came to dropping somebody like Oliver Kahn, who just couldn't come off his line. He was the national hero, but Klinsmann said, I'm sorry, I need Jens Lehmann to play there because we'll be pressing high up the pitch. And it's no use having a goalkeeper who's just afraid to come out of the 6-yard box. We need somebody different there. So he put Jens Lehmann in. He put in a lot of young players in that really changed the whole idea that you'd have to be super experienced and played 10 years in the Bundesliga before you got anywhere near the national team. And of course, the tactics were vastly different to the ones we'd seen before, where Germany had sort of reverted further in its old shell, just trying to defend because they felt or knew that with the players that they had at their disposal, they couldn't beat the likes of France or Holland in an open contest, so they had to defend. And he changed all that, but really, if you're talking about 10 years and a bigger process, that came about through the youth development kicking in. It's no coincidence that the players who first started enjoying a much more professional setup as youngsters then find themselves exactly 10 years later in 2010 suddenly at the national team, and it's a Germany that you don't recognize anymore because the players look different, they play different, they have different last names, and they smash everybody apart from Spain in the semi-final completely to pieces. And so you've got Khedira, you've got Boateng, you've got Özil, all these guys who are different, very different type of players. And that's the last straw, I think, when everybody realised, actually what we're doing here is sort of working. Now we just need to keep on going.
I'm one of the older members of the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, and so I'm a general football fan as well. And I remember the German teams of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they were quite conservative in the way they played. And then when we got to 2006, there was this fantastic team that came out to play for Germany in Germany, and it was amazing to watch. Would you say that 2006 was the year when, in some ways, they kind of represented national pride, didn't they? In some ways, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
They kind of reinvigorated the nation, and I thought personally that kind of nationalism, in some ways, in a positive way, came back to Germany because they were so proud of that team and the way they played.
Well, undoubtedly, it was a huge moment, not just for German football, but for German history after the war. It was that pivotal moment where Germans felt it was okay again to be proud to be Germans, to be happy, to be sort of secure in your own identity. And football played a huge part in that. But of course, the football part of it in itself is also interesting because, as you said, the team played in a way that made actually people also happy to be Germans when it came to the football. So, on one level you had Germans feeling quite proud and pleased how they were open and welcoming, almost sort of, going beyond their own stereotypes and their negative cliches. But also the team did it at the same time and surprised everybody. So those two things came together, and the fact that they then ultimately didn't win was probably just as well, because maybe it would have just been a little bit too much. And Germany were being very good hosts, letting somebody else win ultimately at their own party. But it was hugely important, and it was a pivotal moment because it showed Germans, I think, that the football of this new Klinsmann team had such a huge positive energy that suddenly being a national team player or international team player, being connected with Germany was no longer this slog and this horrible thing that it had become in previous years, where you were almost too afraid to go there, knowing that you might embarrass yourself or come back to huge headlines telling you just how rubbish you are.
And Danny, you've got a few questions as well, haven't you?
Yeah, oddly, like Raj, I'm a little bit older than most people, and I remember being and at the last World Cup I supported Germany. I don't ever support England, and my love of the German national team come from being an Inter Milan fan back in the early 80s, and oddly enough, I've just got FIFA 16, I've just opened my first pack, and I've got Andreas Bremer on loan. That's brilliant, such timing. So I agree with what Raj was saying, that the German team of old was I mean, some of my favourite players, like one of my greatest ever favourite players is Lothar Matthäus, and I really enjoyed watching the team back then. But I think the current German team is just absolutely amazing. And if you as a journalist can write a book, by the way, I found the link of your book on the Guardian website, so your book will be on our website, so people just go buy it from the Guardian website, and you get about £3.80 off, which is a really good deal. If as a journalist, how can you see this is the way forward for any national team? But the English FA don't see it, and do you think they ever will see it, or do you think they're so bothered with making money and their own self-importance that they don't really care about the state of English football?
No, I think they do care. I'm not quite sure the clubs care as much or at all about where England and English football is. And why would they, in a way? They're not owned by English people in the majority. They're not coached by English coaches. One or two teams have more English players than others. Arsenal, as you know, would be one of them. But there isn't, in my experience, that kind of concern for the greater good that German football, despite all its interests and people having different ideas, etc., always seem to have. And of course, we benefited hugely from winning the right to stage the World Cup in 2006. In 2000, that concentrated minds. Just when the need was the greatest, when the national team were at their worst, along comes the World Cup, and everybody says, okay, at least in 6 years' time, let's make sure we don't embarrass ourselves. And I always say this, that I think it's a great shame that England didn't win the right to stage the World Cup in 2018, because I think that could have been that catalyst, that moment where everybody says, let's just hold on for a second, let's just pause, let's just really think what we're doing here. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened, and I don't think the FA are in a position and the Premier League are interested in making fundamental changes. The one thing I would say, which is positive and encouraging, is that I think the level of coaching is getting better. I think that you will get to a point where much better English footballers will be being produced. And then the big question is, will they then find their way into teams, or will the current setup preclude them from going anywhere because it's so much easier? The way it was in Germany in the 90s, before this whole thing happened, it was so much easier just to buy the finished product, just to go and buy a €40 million Roberto Firmino, or a Czech international, fully fledged international at 25, 26. Rather than giving your own youngsters a chance. That's going to be the big question going forward. But I think some of the development actually taking place has become a lot better and more professional.
Okay, you said that you think that the English clubs don't care. How important do you think it is that the Bundesliga clubs, is it all but two of them are fan-owned? I think Wolfsburg is one, they're owned by Volkswagen, aren't they? And all of the rest of them are all fan-owned. Do you think that could ever happen in the English game, or do you reckon it could be forced to happen in the English game? Because as an Arsenal fan, I'm very disillusioned by the ownership of the club, with a man who doesn't really like football and is only in it to make money, and that makes me sad, which is, I think eventually could kill the Premier League.
I don't think it will ever change. I mean, the setup has always been different. Clubs have been limited companies for going back for over 100 years, and clubs in Germany have always been clubs. It's a very different legal identity. It comes with different rules and regulations, like the socio system in Spain. It's a democratic setup. Change is also a little bit afoot in Germany. People are saying that we have to open ourselves more to investors, and some clubs have minority shareholders like Bayern Munich, etc. It's becoming more commercialized, more corporate as a result. But England has developed in a different direction for such a long time that I don't think it ever can go the other way, unless you have sort of calamitous collapses of certain clubs and then the fans take over. But the way that the Premier League is going, and it's just a phenomenally successful product in commercial terms, I don't ever see any of the big clubs being in that much trouble again. So I just don't see a scenario where you as a fan could say, I'm going to take my club back. Maybe if Jeremy Corbyn wins the election, but I think even that is highly, highly unlikely.
No, very good. Rafi, I have some questions from the guys that do the podcast that aren't available for this evening. So I'll start off with Andrew's question, and it's a bit of an essay, so you'll have to excuse him. He says, in light of Arsenal paying the highest ticket prices in world football, 80 million unspent transfer budget in the bank, despite us now suffering the laughable, predictable injuries we all knew would happen, one centre-forward and an owner ignominiously siphoning 3 million a year from the club, whilst not investing a penny into it and not paying a fair dividend to the club, the other shareholders, sorry. Are fans right to feel pissed off, or is it 2 FA Cup wins in previous seasons, albeit with no improvement to the outfield players this season, sufficient return at Arsenal to meet high expectation?
Well, I would be very angry as an Arsenal fan. The other day, well, it's a few months ago, I spoke to my former neighbour who's a die-hard Arsenal fan. I said to him, look, if I was an Arsenal fan, I said to him, I get up every morning thanking God I'm not an Arsenal fan. And he says, yeah, I see your point. Well, I get up every morning thanking God I'm not a Spurs fan. So I guess it can always be worse. But the point still stands. I mean, I'd be hugely frustrated with seeing a team that has so much money at their disposal and has by now a pretty decent squad, not really making the most of their potential. And I think the problem is in the setup. I think you need somebody. You can't trust one single guy to make all the decisions. No club in the world is run like that these days, and there's a good reason for that because there are obvious conflicts of interest. If one guy is responsible for everything, I think it's fair to say that Wenger, for example, lacks harmony in his dressing room. Maybe a more hard-nosed sporting director would say, you know what, I don't care. It's your job to get the best out of this team, which is buying 3 new players. Here they are. That happens at every big club, more or less. Maybe not in direct opposition to a coach, but clubs take a long-term view and they say, we don't really care what you think. We need to make sure we have the best possible squad at our disposal. So that's not happening, and I think there are very obvious shortcomings when it comes to coaches and coaching and match preparation. I think they've become more or less transparent for everybody to see. Wenger is not somebody who deals in details. He deals in broad strokes. He trusts his players. If they're not good enough, he'll get somebody else that he trusts a bit more. But he doesn't really believe in minute, meticulous match preparation. He thinks that inhibits the players the way that, one or two Man United players talk about Louis van Gaal's 45-minute meetings. He doesn't believe in them. And that's one of the reasons why Mourinho, for example, always beats him, because Mourinho does believe in it. And when it comes to playing of teams of similar size, similar quality, of course, luck comes into it as well, but more often than not, the small details will make a huge difference. And one guy believes in them, that's why he wins, and the other doesn't. That's why he doesn't tend to win the big games.
And that's a very interesting point. I mean, if you were the owner of Arsenal Football Club and you've seen the current state of how they are now, we've got lots of money in the bank. Some people blame the board. There's a lot of people that blame the manager. How would you, as an owner, kick on Arsenal Football Club?
Well, it depends what kind of owner I am. I mean, maybe I'm an owner who's very happy that Arsenal just generate lots of money and provide me with a stable income and don't have huge fluctuations in league places. I know I'm going to get 4th, 3rd place. It's not going to be worse. It's not going to be better. But do I really care that they're winning the trophy or not? I probably don't. I mean, that kind of owner probably doesn't care. He's a million miles away. He doesn't have to face fans on a regular basis. I think this is something that David Conn wrote about it very eloquently a while ago. He said, clubs have always been owned by somebody in the UK. The difference was when it was your local factory owner, he still had to face people all the time. And if people were unhappy with him, he would feel that, and it would maybe, make him realize he needed to change things. Now you've got these absentee anonymous owners a million miles away. They're completely immune to any sort of public pressure or dissent. And I think that's a problematic setup if you as an owner are not really interested in the sporting success of your team. And I think the indications are that Kroenke isn't really that interested as long as a certain benchmark is being hit.
Mm.
I don't know.
So
The question is, how interested is Wenger still in doing it? Only he can answer that.
no, very good. The next question comes from John Walsh. Now, we all know that Mesut Ozil moved to Arsenal for a gigantic fee, 42.5 million, I think it was in the end. And there is a large segment of our fans who have heavily criticised him since he's arrived at the club. How is Mesut Ozil viewed in Germany, and is he heavily criticised over there in the same way that he is over here?
He's somebody who divides opinion because people look at his quality and his ability and think, could he be doing a little bit more? Could he just try a bit harder? Could he just, be a bit more involved in games? Or is he somebody who does a lot of stuff that maybe goes unseen and people don't appreciate him so much? But it comes, I think, from this expectation that you get once you see the guy do these magical things that very few other players can do. You hope and expect him to replicate that, and that perhaps slightly more often than he does. So I think there is that slight sense of frustration with him. I think it was quite telling that Joachim Löw sort of shoved him aside slightly, built a team around Toni Kroos at the World Cup because he didn't quite trust Özil to be the number 10 anymore. He'd played him as a false 9 in the qualifiers, and he was playing him on the right and sometimes on the left in the World Cup. And that, I think, gives you a pretty good indication that, yes, he's still seen as somebody that's hugely important and he'll always start if he's fit, but at the same time, he's perhaps not quite the sensational player, the player that, made this team his own, the way people thought it would happen after 2010.
Mm. And where would you say that his best position was?
Well, I think his best position is either behind the striker or as a proper number 10 with two players in front of him. The problem is, as I said just now, that there was a lack of confidence in him doing just that because, Germany are pretty high pressing. If you have a guy who doesn't quite do the job as well as you want him to, then in the centre of the park you have a bigger problem than when it happens out on the wing. So I think it was a slight lack of confidence that made Löw do that. Or at the same time, you could say Toni Kroos had just developed into such a fantastic player that he had to play centrally, if you want to take a slightly more neutral or positive view on that. But there is that question mark that always follows him around simply because, you just wonder, could he be doing more? And I think, he started so incredibly well at Arsenal in his first 4 weeks or so that people still remember that, even if it's only at the back of their mind, and feel, what happened? Why didn't he carry on like that? Could he have been a real superstar rather than a guy you can sort of rely on to do his thing in the team as he does now?
Mm. And the final question I've got, because I've done one from the people on our radio show, and I'll do one from the bloggers as well, and then I know Jason's got another couple, and then Raj, and then we can let you go. But the last question is from Simon Collins, and we know that you are a massive Bayern fan, so this one might possibly hurt you. Is there any chance we could see Lewandowski at Arsenal, and if not, where would he go?
Well, is there a chance? I mean, there's always a chance. Do I think it's realistic? I don't think so. I think his career plan is maybe playing at Bayern for a couple of years and then going to Spain. He very nearly broke his word with Bayern, his pre-contract, and moved to Real Madrid. Bayern very, very unhappy and managed to stave that off in the last minute. I think it's well documented that he had offers from Man United in the past. He said no to them. Look, I mean, if in a couple of years' time, whoever is manager at Bayern doesn't rate him, or he's not quite in best shape or whatever, of course everything's possible. But I don't think, as far as I know, that Arsenal ever made any attempt of signing him. And even if they would have been rebuffed. So it's just doesn't seem like a very natural fit right now.
No, that's fair enough. Jace, we'll go to you, and then if you could link us to Raj, and that will be the end of the segment.
Yeah, cool. Rafi, just a quick couple of questions. Obviously, Arsene Wenger didn't buy an outfield player in the summer. And with your breadth of knowledge of the German game, are there a couple of young players or lesser known players that could have come into this squad, this Arsenal squad, and done a really good job for us?
Well, I think it's difficult with young players. I mean, Wenger likes to buy potential, doesn't he? And you could have easily said, they're buying somebody like Julian Draxler or Max Meyer or Julian Brandt, or even Karim Bellarabi, would have been players that would have definitely strengthened the squad. But, when it comes to specific players, I think you only have to look at one of the Bender brothers or somebody like Vendel, the left back from Leverkusen. I think there are loads of players. There are loads of players who I think would have strengthened the team. I understand why Wenger says, unless I have somebody who's a lot better than Giroud and Theo Walcott, I'm not going to go for a really expensive number 9. I can sort of understand that thinking, but I don't think it's quite credible to say I have a team working day and night on deals over 3 months and then come up with the result that there is no better player in the world who could come in and strengthen the squad and holding position instead of Flamini and Arteta. Flamini's latest goal is exploits notwithstanding. I don't think that is a credible answer from somebody who watches football day and night. If it is really his opinion, I'd be very, very worried as an Arsenal fan.
Okay, that's great. Back to the book. I know in the book you mentioned quite a lot of anecdotes, as in Per Mertesacker not going to international service due to his height and not being able to fit into a tank and so forth. What's your favourite anecdote from the book?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'm not sure I have a ready-made answer available.
Come on, Rafi, give us a taster.
I really like the one, and Oliver Bierhoff goes into a bit of detail about 80 men at the training camp going to a sauna and watching a performance from the international sauna world champion. I didn't know that such a thing existed. They didn't. But you can actually watch a video of this guy's performing with towels and stuff. It is absolutely bonkers. And just the idea of 80 guys sitting there in their towels, all in one big sauna, before they were heading off to Brazil. It's quite an image. And Oliver Bierhoff maintains that this is one of the key moments, or perhaps key moment is too strong a word, but one of the important moments on the way to the title, because he felt the fact that Per Mertesacker and some of the other players and the Players' Council decided that they were going to put this together for everybody to enjoy together showed that the team kind of cared, and he felt that was the first indication that maybe they were sort of coming together as a team. So I like that one.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Rafi. Rafi, I'm going to hand you back to Raj, even though I just preempted his initial question. Raj.
Rafi, I've just got one very, very simple question for you. Mm-hmm. Is Jurgen Klopp going to Liverpool?
It's a simple question, but it's a complicated answer because I couldn't tell you what FSG's plans are. I simply just don't have any insight into what they're up to.
Your gut feeling, though?
Well, I just do know that they've tried before in the past, before Rodgers was appointed, going back even to the Hodgson days. They tried twice to get Jurgen Klopp. At the time, he was riding high with Dortmund and just told them, sorry, it's the wrong time for me. I don't think, as far as I know, that they've come back to him this summer, which suggested they're either very, very confident in Rodgers, or they were confident that he was going to do it this season, or they, for some reason, no longer believe in Klopp because of the way his Dortmund reign ended. But this is just speculation because honestly I just don't know what they're up to. I don't know what kind of advice they're getting and from whom. It doesn't look as if it's on the cards at the moment, which be interesting because that means that one of the most interesting guys will stay on the market for a bit longer, and maybe cause problems one way or another for other managers.
I've heard today that he's actually come out and said that he will be prepared to break his gardening leave for the right club. So I was just wondering, when he said that, I thought maybe he is thinking about Liverpool, whether Liverpool may have approached him now. Because
I think that was just being a general answer to a general question. I don't think it's had anything specific to do with
right.
Do you think he could go on and do a decent job if he ever got to manage Arsenal, Rafi?
I'm sure he'd be a very decent manager.
No, what I meant was, do you think it's... So everybody talks about having the right manager for the right club. Do you think his ethos and the way he manages players and goes about his tactics, do you think he would be the right fit at Arsenal Football Club?
Well, I mean, it's almost impossible to answer that because if you think about it, what will happen the day after Wenger? Arsenal Football Club will sort of has to reinvent itself unless he stays into some kind of director of football role. You don't have to just replace one guy, you have to replace two guys. And Klopp is not that type of manager who goes out and buys 20 players. He relied on other people doing that job, like most continental coaches do. So I think whoever comes in after Wenger will sort of have to recreate the club almost from scratch. So I think he can do it in terms of the actual coaching where the players is concerned. I think he's got big enough personality to be successful. But you almost need a completely new team around them as well. And that's a lot of ifs and buts. And I'm not sure Wenger's quite ready to to ride off into the sunset yet. So I'm not sure we're ever going to see that.
Rafi, very quickly, sorry, I know we're imposing your time, I do apologise.
That's fine.
But the Klopp's last season at Dortmund, what, in your opinion, went wrong?
I think a couple of things. I think, first of all, you had that natural sort of loss of energy when you've just been running for 7 years in the same direction. I think things get a little bit stale and a little bit tired, and I think the players are not quite the same players that they were when he took over, and to make them run as much as he did, I think it was getting consecutively more difficult simply because they had won things. Some of them had won the World Cup, and you naturally sort of change your game a little bit. You're no longer that 18, 19-year-old guy who's going to run through walls for your manager because you feel, maybe you can do it differently just through your football. And I think the fact that the game had become quite easy for other teams to work out because they saw Dortmund coming, the fact that he had lots of injuries with his football, and the fact also that I think some of the fitness regime probably wasn't quite up to scratch anymore. I think a change was necessary, and you only have to see how Dortmund have started now under Thomas Tuchel. They run about 8 kilometers less now on average per game, but they play just as fast, if not faster. They create more chances than ever before, and they also take most of them. And they are right at if you look at all the parameters that matter, and people who work in football, they are right at the very top of European football with the same team, exactly the same team that he had last season, give or take one or two guys. So I think a change was absolutely necessary. After 7 years, the story just had run its course.
No, that's very good. We understand you're on borrowed time, Rafi, so we'll let you leave now.
It made me sound like 75 years old and you're doing this for my deathbed.
No, trust me, I've got loads of questions that I'd love to ask you, but we understand you're a busy guy with a book to promote. So I mean, if you wanted to answer them, you're more than welcome.
Let's do a couple more.
Okay. off the top of my head then, Marco Reus, his situation at Dortmund, there was a lot of uncertainty in the summer as to whether he'd leave. There was a lot of people that said that maybe he signed a contract extension so he could pick where he wanted to go in the summer. I mean, did he sign that contract because it was down to a loyalty to Dortmund? Is there a chance you could ever see him at Arsenal, or is it like speculation is that he might well end up at Real Madrid?
Well, I think he would have been quite happy to go to Real Madrid at one point, but that didn't happen for various reasons. There is a theory that Real Madrid were just keeping him on the bench, as it were, in case that they would have sold Bale back to the Premier League or to United, and most likely, but that didn't happen. So in the winter he renewed his contract, which took away that release clause. The release clause made it able for him to go wherever he wanted. So he was fielding offers. His agent was checking out what kind of money was to be made. But the one he didn't want to do, I think at that time, Real Madrid, didn't happen, and everybody else he either said no to or they weren't quite so certain because of his injury issues. In the summer, I understand what you're saying with speculation, but actually in Germany there was almost no speculation because after he'd renewed his contract, Dortmund had just told everybody that they won't sell. And in football there's a lot of lies and or half-truths, but Dortmund have been very straightforward when it comes to their announcements. I mean, let's not forget they're the club who made Lewandowski effectively run down his contract because they weren't prepared to sell him. They decided he's worth more to them on the pitch than being sold before his contract runs out. So people believed them, and they also believed Royce, that he had made up his mind that he was going to stay. Now, is that forever? I'm not so sure. I think come a good Euros, come a good run from him, he'll be a superstar again. He'll be worth as much as Kevin De Bruyne, if not more. And then Dortmund might be very tempted to cash in at that point, the way that Wolfsburg were. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think the problem for Wenger is that I think he would have liked to pick him up when he moved from Gladbach to Dortmund. He was too late. Dortmund had already done the deal. And now he's in a price bracket where Wenger seems very uncomfortable to commit himself. So it's hard to see a scenario where he's going to be an Arsenal player, I think.
Danny, you've got a question?
Yeah, Rafi. I was watching the Bundesliga during the week, and I saw that Wolfsburg were beating Bayern 1-0. I'm sure you know where this is going to go. Half-time, they brought on Robert Lewandowski, and in the space of 9 minutes, he scored 5 goals. How worried should Arsenal be when we play you home and away in the Champions League? Because I'm very worried. I
mean, you've played at Bayern often enough for the last few years to kind of know where Bayern are, and I think it's always a pretty close game because Arsenal have certain things that trouble Bayern and vice versa. But Bayern have a slightly deeper squad, and I think you're right to mention Lewandowski because he and Müller and the combination, I think you have to talk about to see the two of them almost as their central strike force is, in my view, a little bit ahead of Arsenal's, to put it diplomatically. So I think that Bayern are favourites. I don't think that's how do I say, very controversial to say that, but that doesn't mean that Bayern will win both 2 games. I think the bigger worry for Arsenal is that they no longer seem to do the business against the smaller sides in the group stages. I mean, the 3-3 against Anderlecht, I remember a defeat in Prague a couple of years ago. Now Zagreb. I mean, these are the results that then have seen you finish second place more often than not over the last 5 years, and then get knocked out by a decent side in the next round. And I think that's where, for all Wenger's solidity and consistent performances and getting into Europe, I think that's where you have to really point the finger and say that they're not doing enough, because a team who's in the Champions League every single year, I think should have at least got to the final once in the last 9 years or so, or at least get into the semi-final occasionally. But they always get knocked out by the first decent team they meet. And I think that is a sign that they're probably not doing as well as they could be doing.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right, we've got two. That's okay. We've got two final listeners' questions from Jamie AFC Walton. How highly does Rafi rate Marco Reus? Can he be our number 9 with Reus, Sanchez, Walker, and Özil?
He can be a number 9, although I think it's probably not his best position. I think he's happier playing either side of a number 10 or even being a number 10 himself in a 3 role. I think he needs the space. If you play him as a number 9 at Arsenal, you have the same problem that Walcott has, which is, yes, you make teams defend quite deep, but at the same time, then you've got very few places to go and you kind of become quite blunt. So I wouldn't sign him as a number 9 personally, but he would undoubtedly add quality, but albeit in an area where I think Arsenal is actually well stacked. Will he necessarily get in ahead of Özil and Alexis and Oxlade-Chamberlain at his best? Maybe not. So I'm not sure he's a real priority, even if he was available.
Oh, that's a shame because he's a player that I really like. The final listener's question is from Nicolas Thelis says, would Kevin Volland be a player who could make it at Arsenal? And I just had a look for the people who are listening. He's currently at Hoffenheim, near the bottom of the Bundesliga, and he's a striker forward. And last season he got 8 goals in 32 games, and the season before that he got 11 in 32. So what do you think about him?
I think he's decent, but he's not special. I think he'd be a squad player. He'd come in and do a job, but I don't quite think he's Arsenal material. Incidentally, the same way that I thought that Podolski, for all his qualities and different dimension that he did provide with the shooting and this kind of directness, was never real Arsenal material, or at least not Arsenal material in the sense that you think of the great Arsenal teams. So no, Volland is not. I don't think is not quite the required level for you.
I'm still sad every time I think about Podolski because he was one of my favourite players for Germany for all those years, and now that he's gone, and I still miss him. I feel sad. It's one player that I really would have loved to have seen it make it at Arsenal, but I don't think he was used in the right position the whole time. Which people tell me he wasn't a striker, he couldn't score goals, but I'm still sticking to the fact that his last season with Schalke, he was pretty decent up front.
With Cologne, yeah.
Cologne.
Why
did I say Schalke? I'm reading that off of here.
Right.
Yeah, his last season with Cologne.
Different system. I mean, everything went through him. Every single ball went to him. I don't think you could have put him as the leading striker for Arsenal. Wenger tried it, I think, twice in all those years and just was never really convinced. And neither am I must say.
Okay, Chase, did you have something you wanted to ask Rafi?
Yeah, Rafi, as you're a massive Bayern fan, there seems to be a lot of speculation in the British press anyway regarding Pep Guardiola's position at Bayern at the end of last season in the summer. Any truth to any of that, or is he happy there?
Well, I think this is a situation that is very much fluid. I think he is, generally speaking, happy. His family seem very, very settled. He seems to be enjoying coaching there in the Bundesliga. At the same time, it's a very tough job because he's only got one trophy to win every year, which is the Champions League, and that's the hardest trophy. And it depends on your team being in peak condition and having everybody available in March and April, and then a bit of luck of not necessarily drawing the eventual winners in the semi-final. I think that's a very tough spot to be in when you are in August and thinking, what we're going to do the next 8 months before crunch time comes around again. So it's hard. It's hard, and I think he feels a little bit underappreciated. Because the better he is, the better Bayern are, the easier people say it is for him to be winning. So there's not a lot he can actually do right. I'm not sure he's necessarily made up his mind. I'm not sure. I believe the stories about Manchester City having signed him already. I think it'd be very strange for him to make that decision so early. Bayern still remain cautiously optimistic that can renew a contract with him. But at the same time, I think they're very realistic and think, he still hasn't renewed his contract. If he wanted to stay, he could have done it a long time ago. Why is he not doing it? But I think we'll see a resolution of this by November, December at the very latest, because the club cannot go into his last 6 months not knowing what will happen. They have to start making arrangements, starting to scout, etc. So I think we'll know pretty soon if he's staying or not, and if he's not staying, where he'll be going.
Fantastic.
Rafi, you've been superb.
Sorry?
You've been superb. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I do have one more question for you. If you want to stay for one more.
Shoot.
Fantastic. It's ABW's very own Tom Canton, and he's asked, Arsenal were linked with Draxler in the winter transfer window, but he went to Wolfsburg in the summer. I mean, he says, do you think that Draxler could have been integrated into the Arsenal team in any way? And do you think he could have done a job for us?
Well, there was this theory that Wenger saw him as a striker and saw him as a new sort of RVP and would convert him into a striker. And I guess that is possible, but it hasn't happened so far in his career. And I don't think, buying another attacking midfielder would have really made a big difference to Arsenal. I think he's a very good player. He's had a lot of injuries. He's only just starting to come back to his real level of performance now at Wolfsburg. I understand why Wenger ultimately wasn't quite that convinced. I completely understand that. Especially if the idea was to play him as a striker, to buy somebody that you don't want to convert into another player, but pay 40 million euros for that. With all the injuries he's had, I don't think that was ever going to happen. On Twitter and so on, I think it was quite telling that some of those leaks of the player moving, etc., seemed to come from Schalke and the player rather than Arsenal. I think they were quite happy to sell, but Arsenal weren't that keen on buying. Certainly not last January.
No. It never seems like they are keen on buying Rafi. That's the problem. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. Every time you come on the show, we always enjoy your input and asking you questions. And again, you've been absolutely superb. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.
If anybody wants to hear you, they can hear you every couple of weeks on the Guardian podcast, which if people haven't listened to that podcast, you will learn something every time you listen to it. And it is by far the greatest general football-based podcast on the planet, and I love it.
Thank you very much.
It is absolutely superb.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Right. We shall move on to the rest of the show. And the first thing to do is go over to Danny for a loan watch and a talk about all the recent Arsenal scores across the board.
Okay, this week, our under-18s, they lost 2-1 to Fulham in, I think it was the weekend, with Marcus Aguitabi. I swear there is someone at Arsenal making those names up just to wind me up. But then, but then last night, the mighty Arsenal went and smashed the not-so-mighty Spurs. We were 3-1 down after 24 minutes. We only come back and beat them 5-3, didn't we? Tyrell Robinson got 2 goals. Eddie Nikita got a goal. Yassin Fortune got 1, and Reece Nelson got 1. We are now 4th, but 4th in Division 2. Come on, lads, sort it out. The under-21s and the ladies haven't played a game in over a week, so bugger them. Right, and so up to the loan watch. Jenkinson started in the West Ham's 2-1 win over Man City, and he played quite well. I heard a snigger then.
No one sniggered.
That's brilliant. It's fantastic. And then he started in the last night, or was it the night before, in the 2-1 League Cup loss to Leicester City. Never mind. Top of the league. Gnabry, it was unused sub as West Brom lost, as they beat Aston Villa 1-0. And then last night they lost 3-0 to Norwich, but he started the game, which I think might have been his first start of the season, but did shit all. But there again, he's a youngster learning his trade. Back down to the Championship, Damian Martinez for Wolverhampton Wanderers. He started in their 0-0 draw with Brighton and Hove Albion in the league, but then he was on the bench last night in a 3-0 League Cup loss to Middlesbrough. It seems at Wolverhampton Wanderers, the manager plays Martinez one week and the other goalkeeper the other week, and there is no pattern in it that I can discern from that. Ashley Maitland-Niles Conservative, playing for Ipswich Town. He started in the 1-1 draw in the league against Birmingham City, and then he was an unused sub last night as Man United beat Ipswich 3-0. So never mind. Isaac Hayden and Chipper Apcom both playing for Hull.
Tom,
shut your face. Both playing for Hull. Isaac was an unused sub when they drew 1-1 with QPR, and Akpom come on as a 65th minute sub. But then they both started in the 1-0 League Cup win over our bogey team Swansea. So well done to them, and it's good to see someone that has something to do with Arsenal that is actually beating Swansea, because God knows we bloody can't. John Terrell, Birmingham City, unused sub as they drew 1-1 with Ipswich, and he's a 66th minute sub as they lost 1-0 to Aston Villa in the League Cup. Is that right? Yeah, they beat there last night. Awful game. I think that went to about 5 hours of injury time. Wellington Silva, he started as Bolton lost 4-1 to Huddersfield in the league. They're already out of the League Cup. Super Dan Crowley, future Ireland legend.
England legend.
No, he's decided to play for Ireland now, hasn't he? Fucking turncoat.
Has he really?
Bloody, yeah, I'm gutted. Well, I'm not gutted. My whole family's Irish, so good luck to the boy. Yeah, but there's another one as well who's decided to play for Ireland. But
is it Jack Grealish at Aston Villa? Because he had the choice, didn't he?
I think it may well be that, man. So yeah, the Irish have got some decent young players coming through. Anyway, he didn't play in the 1-1 league draw with Blackpool, so never mind. He hasn't been playing too much lately. He had a great start. He got the goal against Everton, but then he's maybe he's injured, or I don't know. Anyway, off to Italy. Wojciech Szczesny, he broke his finger in the Champions League game against Barcelona. That they drew 1-1. And then Roma drew 2-2 with Sassuolo at the weekend, and they lost last night to Sampdoria 2-1. So without Szczesny, Roma are knackered. The magical Yaya Sanogo, this little bit from Eva. She says, Sanogo was not involved, not on the pitch, nor on the bench. Ajax won 2-0 away at Excelsior today, which would have been Sunday, I think. And then last night, or the night before, it was the Dutch Cup, and Ajax beat De Graafschap. Yeah, that sounds about right. Good God, I didn't mess one up. And they beat them 2-0, and he was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't even selling hot dogs out the front. I think his days there are numbered.
To be fair, he's consistent, isn't he?
What, you mean consistently poor?
Well, very average.
Consistently not picked. I mean, Gordon Bennett, the pie man was playing ahead of him at Crystal Palace.
When I talked to Ava on Twitter about it, she includes a few other Ajax supporters, and the consensus of opinion is rubbish, and they do not want him, and he's going to do nothing there. So my prediction in the summer that he'd score 30 goals for Ajax.
God knows what you were sniffing in the summer.
Oh,
what about
dear.
podcast favourite? Mana.
No. He played for Rangers, and at the weekend they beat Dumbarton 2-1, and they lost their first game of the season in the League Cup. They lost 3-1 to St Johnstone, but he got the assist. But now they'll be able to concentrate on the league, much like Arsenal do when we get knocked out of the Cups. So there you go.
That's
and
it.
all I've got left written down now is about 10 Twitter questions in general about stuff.
Lovely stuff.
It is indeed.
We'll start properly then by talking about Saturday's lunchtime kickoff against Chelsea. There really is only one place to start with this one. So, Jace, if you would like to talk us through the whole melee that saw Gabriel walk.
Well, it's typical Diego Costa, isn't it? First of all, he's tried to assault Koscielny. Not the first person he's tried to assault on the football pitch, or not the first person he's actually assaulted.
It salts my eyeballs looking at him.
He had, was it Zabaleta by the throat last year? Tried to strangle him, and Zabaleta walks in, he didn't.
Yeah. It's the same old story.
He did it against Swansea as well. There was a couple against Swansea. Didn't he punch a Swansea player in the face?
Yeah, he punched Gylfi Sigurdsson. And I want to make this clear, actually. It's not allegedly. It's not, he may have. He's a cheating scumbag, and that's the end of it, okay?
It's close there, Jace, close. I could hear some swear words bubbling.
There were numerous swear words lining up to be used, okay?
There is a swear jar, this podcast.
I know. But what I liked, Gabriel comes in after the chest incident with Koscielny. He comes in and, he defends his teammate, and I thought, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Well done, Gabriel. You've come in, you've had a pop at him. You've not done anything stupid. And as they've walked away, you know, this is the thing. This is known about Diego Costa. We've all seen the vines of him and the clips of him where, he's trying to throw an elbow in somebody's face and the guy, touches him, with a little flick and all of a sudden he's going down holding his face. He's a baiter. He wants to bait you. He's the schoolyard bully. As soon as you smack him in the chops, he goes crying to teacher. And that's what he does. And then the stupidest flick from Gabriel, and it was stupid. He's shown great character earlier.
No contact was made though, Jace.
No, it doesn't matter. He shouldn't have even made the action. You throw the foot out like that and you intend to catch, and it was a petty one. If you'd have turned round, head-butted him and broken his nose, I wouldn't mourn. I genuinely wouldn't mourn. I'd think, good for you, you've had him. But he's let the team down. And, yes, it's rescinded now, but it's not going to give us 3 points or a point back. As it happens, Diego Costa comes off the pitch being substituted. Chelsea are happy, they got 3 points. Don't get me wrong, Santi Cazorla, another one where he's let himself on the team down, but his whole performance was that, as were a couple of others. But Gabriel, I was so proud of him and happy to see what he did initially, and then he couldn't help himself. And it was stupid. It was just stupid. He did okay up until the very last moment, and then he bit. And, it just saddened me because, I thought the game was back and forth. We were in it. Chelsea didn't look that great. They'd had some good patches. We looked as if we could do something. And it just cost us badly. You can't play at Stamford Bridge with 10 men for 45 plus minutes. You just can't.
You can't bemoan a 2-0 loss when you're not on a level playing field, can you?
No, exactly. I don't blame Arsene Wenger. I don't blame anybody. Okay, I don't blame. I do blame Gabriel and I do blame Santi Cazorla. Because even that at the end of the day, that's a couple of matches out. He's going to miss.
I was very disappointed with some of our players not backing him up, though. In the old days, you would have had Keown and all sorts going in there and trying to sort it out, but they all kind of shit themselves and got away. I think Petr Cech tried to separate them, but the worrying thing, little worry for me personally, is that we all know that Gabriel's got a temper, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And I reckon a lot of teams watch that and goes, well, we're going to wind him up now for the rest of the season and see what happens, because he's now going to get tested every time he goes on the pitch.
Absolutely. Sorry, I want to come back on something you just said there. The damning thing for me, Raj, was Hector Bellerin was the only guy trying to hold Gabriel back. Santi Cazorla, captain for the day, he's left the frigging ground. He doesn't want to know. He does not, he's chipping away at the referee when he should be looking after his teammate. And, Ramsey, Cochran, all of them should have been on him saying, like, let's calm it down, let's pull him away from it. And they've all let themselves down.
I think the one thing that it strikes for me, and we'll go to Danny next, is had the referee made the right decision in the first instance, which was in the space of a 2-minute period, maybe you can say for the first incident regarding Costa and Koscielny, that's a yellow card. The hand in the face is another yellow card. The chest bump that he did on him. That's another yellow card. Surely if Costa walks, which was the right refereeing decision in that instance, then the Gabriel situation doesn't become a talking point. Arsenal carry on the game and maybe go on to win. Danny, is that something you agree with? I mean, the referee was awful, wasn't he?
Well, he was, but he may have complained that he was unsighted because Costa is a bit of a sneaky bugger. But when we were doing the radio show just after the game, you can go back and listen to it. It's on YouTube and Soundcloud. We counted up 2 red cards and 4 yellows we think he should have got. And then that was without even seeing the stuff that he did to Koscielny. But I'm a little bit annoyed with the way Gabriel reacted to all of this, because you look at go back, I know it's the old days, but you look at the way Adams and Keown and Bold would treat people, or the way Ian Wright would go. I think Ian Wright had, was it Peter Schmeichel around the neck once when he said something to him?
Yeah.
Players get wound up the whole time. Now you look at what Costa did to Koscielny. He slapped him across one way around the face and turned around the other way, slapped him again and left cut marks on his face. What did Koscielny do? He took it in his stride and thought, I'll get you back later. And I think it's just showing again that maybe buying a player, Gabriel, getting him a player who doesn't speak a word of English, and best part of a year later he still doesn't speak English. That is something which probably caused a bit of trouble, because there was only 3 people on that pitch who knew what Costa was saying to Gabriel. That was Costa, Gabriel and Oscar. And even when the referee was wanted to tell Gabriel off, there was nobody there who could translate for him. Because in Brazil, as people know, they all speak Portuguese. But the Portuguese they speak is completely different from the Portuguese that you speak in Portugal. So he had to call over Oscar to come and explain to Gabriel. And when he was doing it, Gabriel kept trying to walk away. And then one of our, like Jace was saying, Santi should have gone up, grabbed Gabriel by the arm and gone, you stand there, listen to the referee, and then be there when Oscar, because the only people that are meant to speak to the referee are the 2 captains. And where was Santi to be seen? I mean, at one point, Czech did try to break it all up, which was nice of him, because he's kind of representing both sides there. But I'm just a little bit disappointed that a man of Gabriel's stature, he's played in 3 different countries, he's on the verge of the Brazil squad, and the way he acted, and as part of football, you can't let someone get in your face like that and then try and get away with the kick at him, and there's the constant arguing at him. There's a lot of petulance going on the Arsenal side at the moment, not just from him, but you look at the likes of Giroud. If he spent as much time concentrating on scoring a goal as he does punching the ground, kicking the ground, arguing with the referee, and just dropping off all the time, then I think there's a bit of a problem at the club with the way people are reacting. Now, if he'd have done that to Mertesacker, would Mertesacker have gone all mad at him? He wouldn't. He'd have gone, I'll bide my time and I'll get you back, son, don't you worry. So I think that was the problem. I mean, what Costa did was completely and utterly wrong, and I'm glad that he's got a 3-game suspension. And in hindsight, we shouldn't have had a player sent off. We would put it was 0-0. I think it was 0-0 at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we probably wouldn't have. If Costa would have gone that he should have done, then we wouldn't have been that well. Not that he scored the goal, but the game would have had a completely different result. All we have done is help the rest of the league, because Costa won't be playing for 3 games, but not that he's really scoring many goals, because he's doing a bit of a Giroud at the moment. I think he's got 4 in 19 games. I was listening on the radio today. But I'm just a little bit annoyed that players can lash out like that and think they're going to get away with it, and there's 1,000 bloody cameras. But luckily, the only way he got away with it, the ban rescinded, was because ESPN Brazil was focusing on Gabriel, and they saw that the kick that he did backwards didn't actually touch Costa, so the camera got him done, and the camera got him away with it as well.
No, I do feel a bit sorry for Gabriel. I mean, it's inexcusable that he should have done that and he got sent off and all that, but I wonder whether privately he feels a bit let down by his own teammates, because, I mean, as I said earlier, no one came in to help him out or pull him out. And you know, in teams you do that. You back your own mates up and stuff like that. And he was kind of left on his own. And as I said, he's got a temper, and they must realise that, because we all suspected it as soon as he was sighting, the way he looks and the way his aggressive postures are and everything like that. So we all knew that it was coming. There's a red card coming. I think we said that about 3 weeks ago. How long before he gets a red card? And I do wonder whether he feels a bit let down. I know it's not an excuse, but you know, we gotta not just play like a team, but back each other up on the pitch as well. So,
Raj, sorry, guys. Raj, after the midweek game in Europe, I feel bloody let down. You know, come on, we need a bit of fight in this squad. You know, I don't know what happens at Colney day in, day out. And I don't know what these monkeys think they're up to. But you cannot go away to Zagreb, lose in that manner, have a man sent off, you know, 1 yellow card for just dissent to the referee, and lose in that manner, and then come back against Chelsea, against the champions, and put in that performance and that show of absolute gutlessness. And it is gutlessness. You know, it's pathetic. You see more bottle when the under-5s play in the local rec. You know, where are they back in the teammate up? Absolutely.
All right, Delia Smith. Where are you?
Yeah, but no, you tell me, where were they? Where were they?
I totally agree. I think the only thing that becomes from a positive from it is the fact that we all moan that there's not enough passion in the side, whereas Gabriel is one of those players that I think he shows a lot of heart. He shows a lot of passion. Do you know what? Sometimes a team needs a nasty bastard, and I'm not saying that in the terms of the performance that Diego Costa put in at the weekend, because that's not what I'm talking about for a second. But there's a fine line being a nasty bastard and just being fucking horrible and nasty to play against, or being someone that constantly cheats. And if you can fall into the first segment of that, then I think that's absolutely fine. If you remember Patrick Vieira, we always look back at those times and we think, wow, what a fella. He was a leader. Could Gabriel not be like that?
Yeah, look, I think they can, okay, but there's a difference between being smart and tough and being stupid. You know, you have to play with some intelligence as well. For all that Diego Costa is the scum of the earth, and he really is this, he's a bottom feeder. I've stepped in better quality.
Well, I think you've also got to remember as well, Jace, and maybe it should have taken into consideration with the actual lineup that day, that there was history between Costa and Gabriel. I think Villarreal played Atletico Madrid, and they got into fisticuffs in that game. So there is nastiness there. There is a history.
I don't know about that, okay, but the bottom line is, okay. Mourinho, when he was in his post-match conference, was comparing football to rugby or rugby's a man's game, and he's thumping his chest and all this nonsense, okay? In rugby, what Mourinho did to Villanova with the eye gouge, he gets a 6-month to 1-year ban, okay? In rugby, somebody puts Diego Costa on his backside, and he doesn't mess about like that again, okay? But, all this nonsense about and not getting it in, okay, and not backing up your teammates. It kind of shows, yes, we damn well needed a couple of players to come in and stir things up in the summer. It's all a bit too nicey. Santi Cazorla can have the quietest feet in football. He's also the quietest captain, and he's got no bloody backbone. And that's the truth of the matter. Okay, and all this nonsense about Mikel Arteta being a great influence on the squad. Well, we're great at not backing each other up and not being up for the battle. And whenever you go to Stamford Bridge, you damn well know it's going to be a hell of a battle. But Ramsey, rubbish. Oxlade-Chamberlain, rubbish. All of them, and Giroud's gone back 2 years to the petulant child he was when he's caught with his pants down. Last season you thought you'd see him come of age and really take the baton forward and really up for the challenge. Well, that's all gone, isn't it?
The question I've got is what happened to the days when Arsenal went 1-0 down, we were more dangerous?
Yeah,
that was years ago though, Danny.
I know, but we just don't seem to have. There seems to be the core or the passion or the, I don't know what to call it. It seems to be gone from the team, and it's like they're almost convinced they're going to do nothing this season. And it's so distraught after a great summer of thinking we're going to do this and we're going to do that, to realise that so far, early in the season we're knackered already. No, and I don't see it really turning around.
It wasn't a great game from our point of view. From the whole, we were a man light, all that shit that happened with Costa. Then Coquelin got injured as well. And then it finished itself off with Santi getting sent off. So it was a truly, truly miserable day all round for us. But with that said, we'll move on to happier times.
Sorry, Gib. Can I just say one more thing, or just 2 more points on that? Very, very.
Yeah, no, go for it, Raj.
No, the one thing was that the most galling thing about this whole day was that even though we got the 3 matches back for Gabriel, it was rescinded. The galling thing is that Chelsea still have those 3 points, which basically just kills me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that if there are any Arsenal fans out there who still have a torch burning for Cesc Fabregas, you might want to watch that game again and see how much he got involved in getting Gabriel sent off, because I know a lot of players around the Premier League do that, but he was one of our players, and there's still Arsenal fans who think he's a legend apparently. But what he did was just disgraceful, and he can fuck off. Oh, sorry, language.
No, Raj, he can fuck right off. Okay?
I mean, honestly,
Sorry.
that's the end. If you've got any feelings for him, just watch that 2 minutes again and see what he does, because
Actually,
it's
Raj,
outrageous.
sorry, mate, I'm going to expand on that. After him going on strike, feigning injury to leave the club, if you still think he's great, after that, if you think he's good after that, you're a moron. And that's the end of it.
God, that's the
Do you know who else is moronic? Any Arsenal fan that watched that game and boycotted Diego Costa. If you did that and you're listening to this,
Costa Coffee, you mean?
Yeah, Costa Coffee. You're a prick. That's all I'm saying.
It's just a joke. I sometimes
I smiled.
Oh no, it makes me cringe. Honestly, it makes me look. Oh, I don't know what to say. I mean, it just makes us look like.
It makes our fan base look like they're about 12.
Costa.
Look, hey, it's not as bad as having your photo taken with this prick.
That was cringeworthy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh dear.
Let's move on. I'm going to lose it.
Right. Happier times.
Hey.
Our next game to talk about was last night's Capital One Cup clash with that shit up the road. Apologies for the swearing. I'll put my pound in the jar. We'll go to Raj for your thoughts on this one. What a night.
It was a great night, and as an Arsenal fan who thinks that games against Tottenham are the biggest, one of the biggest games of the season in any competition, it was brilliant for me. I mean, I don't understand. There were a few fans yesterday saying that it wasn't the most important game, and hopefully we'll play a weakened team, and it doesn't really matter if we lose. That just does not work for me whatsoever. For me personally, it's bragging rights for a few more months. I don't really care how we play if we beat them. If it comes off, if the ball comes off Arteta's fat arse and we score a goal, that's fine by me. It was absolutely brilliant to see Flamini score 2 goals. And there were 2 crackers as well. He got that first one, he got in there very quickly, just like a centre forward, and got it in. And then that one where the second one, which kind of was a deflection, which went right up in the air. As the camera panned to Flamini, when I was watching on TV last night, I said to myself, don't be stupid and try and volley it in, just square it or something. And he volleyed it in, and it was brilliant. I just thought it was fantastic. I heard there was some horrible stuff that happened after the game last night, but that's what happens when you go down to that shithole. Basically, you do risk a lot of health and safety to go and see our team play over there. But I'm absolutely over the moon, and roll on to the next round, 4th round, Sheffield Wednesday away.
In talking about that second goal, Raj, you've got to look. If you actually look at Flamini's second, what was the actual winner, you see when the ball goes up in the air and you see Flamini. I think there's every Arsenal fan out there was going, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" But you saw, like looking back on it on the replays, the way he actually timed his run, so he hit it with absolute perfection, and that ball went in the net. I was just absolutely crazy, wasn't it?
He teed himself up, and it was the perfect hit, a fantastic goal. But as I said, when I saw that ball go up in the air and I saw him underneath it, I said to myself, "Don't be flash, mate. Just cross it, just square it to someone else." So he proved me wrong, and good luck to him. I mean, also he's been very patient as a player. I'm not I don't rate him as much as I used to in the past, along with Arteta, but he did what he had to do yesterday, and good luck to him as well. Now, I've heard stuff from the summer saying that he was thinking about leaving. He spoke to Arsene Wenger during the summer, and Arsene Wenger said, "Look, I can't guarantee you a regular place, but I will get you some games." And whatever conversation they had made him stay. He had a brilliant game last night, and I'm not saying that's going to be like that for the rest of the season, but hopefully he'll go on from there. And while Coquelin's injured, I mean, do we know how long he's injured out?
No, I don't think there is.
That's a state secret. There's something dodgy going on there. Why haven't they announced how long he's out for?
Well, it's going to be a Jack, isn't it? It's going to be a Danny Welbeck. Oh yeah, he's going to be back in a couple of weeks. No, he's out for 6 months. Just hit us with a sucker punch.
Well, he might himself. I mean, Flamini with yesterday's performance, hopefully will get himself a few more games over the next few weeks, and good luck to him. Yeah,
definitely so. And Jace, we'll come to you next, and we've not only talk about the goals, but in the way that Flamini conducted himself as well. Smacking the badge, going over to the fans and just pointing to all of them as well. Wasn't it just nice to see that respect towards the fan base from a player?
Do you know what?
He did that to the Tottenham fans, though, Gim, not to us.
Yeah, he was giving it to them. He's giving them stick.
Was he really? I thought it was. I know he did.
He was winding them up. You just see the photographs today.
I know he did a video at the end where he basically thanked the fans for sticking with him and said that, it had been a bit of a hard time, but, he appreciated all the support and the 2 goals were for the fans. So, that's a lovely statement to make. And as a fan, it kind of makes you feel all warm inside.
Yeah, do you know what? Okay, I mean, I've said it before. I believe Arteta and Marty Flamini shouldn't be in a squad any longer. Okay, but you get these smart asses on Twitter who try to belittle him, degrade him, and laugh at him. He's the worst footballer at the club and so forth. I've seen a load of them. You got some tit behind a keyboard. I don't think they've ever kicked a football. Or, or even seen a football. The only thing round is the bellies and whatever, And, they try to belittle this guy. This guy's a title winner in Serie A. This guy, whenever he comes on the pitch for the Arsenal, the one thing he doesn't lack is bottle. Unlike so many in our squad. And I think Thierry Henry summed it up last night. I never watched the after-match interviews, but I watched it last night. And he said, it's all about you tonight, Matthew Flamini. Take a bow, son. You showed real desire. And he did. He showed what it should mean to every one of those players in that squad to play for the Arsenal. The technique for both goals and the desire to get there and be first to the ball. Yeah, okay, so both teams were, thrown together and mix and match. Doesn't matter. It's the North London derby. It's the North London derby and it means everything. And Matthew Flamini put a load of twats on Twitter to shame last night.
He embraced the meaning of the derby.
Yeah, he always does, though. He always does.
His first game back for us when he re-signed. Look at
but
that.
I think he's one of the only ones that properly understood what it meant to the fans, Jace. That's because he had the history.
No, but if they don't understand what it means to the fans, they shouldn't be at the club. What the hell are they doing here? They should bugger off elsewhere. When he flattened Danny Rose, he lined him up. Bang, have that, Danny Rose. You're a tit. Get down, son. Sit down, you prick. And, and that's what it's all about, and it means something to him. And for people to belittle him, well, he's a professional footballer earning millions of pounds. You're not.
He would have sorted out Costa on Saturday if he'd been playing, I tell you.
Yeah,
he'd have been doing a prison sentence.
Yeah, I know.
This is the guy. When he said to Charlie Adam, "You do that again, I'll gouge your eyes out." You know what I mean? Now as much as I have no respect for gouging somebody's eyes out, what a threat, okay? You know what I mean? And so, it means something to him, and there was a marked difference in desire between him and Arteta last night. And I don't want to be having a go at Arteta. He's been a good player for the club, but at 33, he
came in and he did a job, but I don't think I'd have that confidence for him to say maybe play 3 or 4 games in a row and do the same kind of job.
Yeah, but when you're in a tough place and you need somebody to come off the bench, who do you want?
Ghostbusters.
We get a call. But yeah, I was so chuffed, Flamini. I mean, do I believe he's good enough to be? He should be at the club now. Probably not. I think we should have improved in the summer. But, as a guy, I love Matthew Flamini. I bloody adore him because he's got something the half our squad haven't. And that's bottle.
I'll tell you who is a worry. Debussy. My God. What's happened to him?
He lost it.
Hold up, guys.
He was well out of position. I know Campbell kind of exposed him a few times last night, but he's heavier now as well, it seems like. And he's puffing away after 10 minutes. And he seems to have lost all confidence, same as Giroud. I mean, both of them have got no confidence.
Chambers was covering for him, wasn't he?
Chambers did all right yesterday.
I thought he did very
great.
well.
He's really unlucky for the goal, isn't he? But in all fairness to Debussy, guys, okay, he spent most of last season out. He's still coming back. And the only way he's gonna get back to match fitness is through games. And again, he seems to be the new boo boy on Twitter. I just had a quick look at it last night, and yeah, they're all pissing and moaning about him. Well done, guys. Get in the team and all that.
But can you maybe say that maybe he's lost some of that passion? I mean, I can't see at any point in the future where he's going to take his spot back from Bellerin. It's not. I mean, it's not going to happen in the real world.
Bellerin is not great defensively. Okay, and more to the point, in midweek against Zagreb. Okay, at least Matthew Debussy is piling up the pitch at the end of the game, having a go, when a lot of our boys had simply given up. You know, he needs game time. It's as simple as that. You know,
it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
He's not played in a year, and maybe it's just hard to slot him back in when you know you may not be the manager's first choice.
But you know, Henry's and Jamie, Jamie Redknapp were talking about it after the game, and as they're saying about Flamini, and this will apply to Debussy as well. If you're not in the first team, you're with the fitness coaches. You're not taking part in drills. You're just doing your fitness drills and not the football stuff. So it's really, really difficult for these guys to get back into the swing of it. You know, and do we just write them off after a couple of games? No, that's what a fair weather fan does. It's not what a proper fan, a proper supporter does. You know, we can all give an opinion. Yes, okay, he didn't seem to have the greatest game. But you've got to stand by these guys. You've got to support them.
And last night's game will be remembered as much for the on-field antics as it will be the off-field antics. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Arsenal fans that ripped down the, what do you want to call it, hoardings, banner, whatever. Now, Raj, for you, you understand the deep hatred that comes from being an Arsenal fan with Tottenham. They came to our ground, they ripped up a load of seats. A lot of people will say two rights don't make a wrong. Now, ripping down those hoardings, did it tarnish a great night, or for you, did it put the cherry on the cake?
Bit of both, really. I mean, to be quite honest, if they'd let us alone for another hour or so, we could have demolished the stadium on behalf of Levy and saved him to about £2 million if he wanted to. But it didn't really bother me in some ways. I know a lot of people were outraged by it, but you've got to understand. I mean, I used to go down to the White Hart Lane all the time. I don't anymore because of the hassle. And if you've read the reports, the walk back to the station last night was horrendous. If you've noticed in the last couple of years, there's less and less red shirts in the away section. No one wears shirts anymore because they don't want to be recognised once they leave the ground. And it's a terrible, terrible situation to have. But it's been like that for 30 years, 40 years. It's just a nightmare. So it didn't hugely bother me, made me titter a little bit because they did trash our end last year, and I'm a bit of a kind of tit for tat kind of guy. I can understand why people are pissed off about it, but I didn't lose any sleep over it. It's just one of those things that happens. It's not a pleasant trip to White Hart Lane, although if you do win at White Hart Lane, it's a brilliant night, but you still have to that half an hour back to the station is a nightmare.
Okay, I'd like to gauge a little bit of reaction from all of you on that. So the same question aimed at Raj. Tarnish a great night or cherry on cake, Jace? I'd expect you to go cherry on cake.
No, look, I'm not going to condemn anybody for it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to condemn anyone. No way. I haven't done White Hart Lane, so there's no way I'm condemning anyone. After the FA Cup tie last season, season 4, where they threw coins at Theo Walcott, I really couldn't give a damn. Good luck, whatever, I don't care. It's all well and good, it's disgusting, but actually, who gives a shit? It's Tottenham.
I think the other thing is that they're a bit silly for doing it. I mean, I'm sure that when passions are aroused, they're not thinking what they're doing. But in this day and age, in 2015, I mean, the number of kind of mobile phone videos that came out on Twitter last night showing them doing it. I mean, you're going to be recognised. You're going to be identified straight away by the old bill. So if you're going to get done for it, and I'm sure that the dozen or so people that tore off those hoardings are going to get caught. And
they have been. There's 16 arrests the Met Police have made. They have announced.
There you go. And it's so easy. I mean, it's Arsenal fans going, "Ray, this is what we've done," but you're actually stitching up your own supporters, or maybe they did it on purpose so they could be grassed up. But you're going to end up with a banning order. You might end up with losing a season ticket or any rights to any tickets at all. So that's my word of caution: is don't do that, because you are, in this day and age, you are going to get caught. This is a CCTV world we live in.
Yeah, it's not like 20 years ago, is it? I remember going to watch a Swans Cardiff derby where the whole of Swansea Bay is kind of fighting, and the old Bill don't want to know. Now they go back, they look at it, and you're in trouble.
It's digital video. It's 4K video, and even I saw the videos, and you can recognise every single face. Not recognise the names. I mean, I'm just saying they're crystal clear. It's not blurry images. You're going to get caught straight away. You know what the seat holders were in those seats as well. It's dead easy to get done.
And I think the thing is as well, if you've suffered that sort of abuse, which they're going to get at that shithole, okay, I can understand the reaction. I can understand, the letting loose, so to speak, but it's a difficult one when you get caught.
Did you see the best tweet last night? It was breaking news. Arsenal fans have done £5,000 worth of upgrades to White Hart Lane.
Yeah, brilliant.
I tweeted something along the lines of, I think Tottenham got off lucky. If I had my way, I'd fucking bulldoze the stadium.
What did you think of it, Danny?
What, the game or
what
the incident at the end?
What we're just talking about.
It's stupid. Don't do it. You can, like I was saying about Gabriel, you cannot do anything in modern day football stadiums, or you can't do it anywhere unless you live in a village like me where we have one camera. If you're going to do something, you can't throw anything, you can't shout anything, let alone pull down the bloody hoardings. On the radio show last night, I said you could have hit one of the people in the head below and done some damage, but they're Spurs fans, so you won't do any damage at all. Then they were passing down to the Arsenal fans. It was Arsenal fans below them that they were passing it down to, and then they were breaking it up. But you could clearly see, even, and I was sitting 8 foot away from the telly and watching it, you could clearly make out the faces of the people. And then to make it even worse, the people were putting screen grabs of it on Twitter for everyone else to see the people's faces.
It's all on YouTube, everything.
You can't get away with this in modern football. You've not been able to get away for that for the last 15 years, for God's sake. It's silly, it's dangerous. And what if one of them was doing it and had slipped and had fallen head first? Oh, but I think it's just the bravado of the situation. People just think, "Oh, we're going to smash the place up," but I don't know. It's a bit sad. I don't care who you're playing. You don't do that to because you're going to get caught. But not only because it's wrong, but you'll end up getting caught.
Yeah.
I think that's very good points all round, boys. So with that, then we will move on to some Twitter questions, Danny. If we can have 2 or 3 of the best that we've received this evening.
Okie dokie. Right. We've got one about Sanchez cutting in from the right. Do you want that one? Or cutting in from the left? From Adil Sakir. Oh, Gary, his mates. Alexis Sanchez cutting in from the left on his right foot is becoming predictable. Should we be worried, Gimli?
He's on mute, isn't he?
Oh no, he's gone for a wee-wee, Jace. I didn't read it.
Oh, God. Sorry, I'm crunching.
And he'd gone for a wee and you were eating.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know about worried. I just think, look, when he came on against Tottenham last night, he changed the makeup of the game for us. Yes, he's not quite sharp in front of goal. He's trying a bit too hard at the moment. He just needs to play himself back into form, relax, and kind of enjoys football a bit like the Ox. But the Ox was doing the same thing last night, where there was that bit where the Ox beat 3 players. He made a couple look like absolute mugs and then butchers the pass at the end of it. I think, the whole squad need to just relax and, just get back into the swing of playing and enjoying football. But it's what he does. It works for him. It used to work for Bobby Pires.
It certainly did.
It can work for Alexis Sanchez, but it's just on a dip in form.
And it was working for the Ox last night at times as well.
Yeah, but again, he tries too hard, and he just needs to stop, relax.
At least he tries, though.
He needs to improve. He needs to improve his passing. His passing is poor. Okay, he's trying to take it all on himself, a bit like Sanchez is, and they both need to chill out and use the men around them. But last night's a difficult game because he got 2 OAPs. Well, one with a new lease of life.
They're both younger than us.
Yeah, bugger off. Don't remind me of that. But you know what I mean. I'm quicker than Mikel Arteta, and I got a Garmin.
Oh dear.
But no, you shouldn't be worried. He'll come good. He's
okay, right.
so much quality.
This one has got Raj written all over it. This is from Siddharth Hazarika. Sounds a bit Japanese.
No, it's Indian. Oh
is
my
it?
God, you're terrible, honestly.
Hazarika? That's bloody Japanese.
Siddharth is a
Croatian, isn't it?
Okay, this is. I'll give this to Raj. There was news about £3 million to one of Cronky's companies. Is Cronky the reason why we have stagnated? And go.
Do you know what? We just got to refer back to what Rafi said earlier on. You know, is he an owner that is quite happy with fourth place and increasing the turnover every year, not really fussed about trophies? And I think the answer is yes. I don't think he's fussed about trophies. I think as long as we get into the top four, keep qualifying for the Champions League and bringing in that glut of cash from TV money from qualifying for Champions League and ending up in the top four, then he's more than happy. So I don't think he's fussed, because if he was, it'd have put a lot more pressure on Arsene Wenger by now.
Oh, well, there you go. So, yeah, I don't think it's good. One for Gimli from Carl, who is at that _London_guy, who recently made his debut on the radio show, and I'm sure he'll be back because he was very good.
I know him well.
And he is world class at Monopoly, but I've heard he cheats. How long do we stick with Giroud when he's in this kind of form?
I think everyone's moaning that Walcott isn't good enough as a striker. But I think part of that comes from he's never been given a decent enough run to be called a striker. If I remember correctly, the last decent run he had, ended with him getting stretchered off against that shit up the road. So I think, at the moment, there can't be a lot of faith in Giroud. Judging from the game in Zagreb, it didn't look like his head was with it. Last night, I thought he was poor again. Better strikers finish off the shots that he didn't last night. And as a striker, you're always going to be judged on goals. Walker hasn't been prolific this season. In fact, he's missed an awful lot of chances. But like I said, I think you've got to give him 5-10 games. And at the moment, when Giroud's head's not with it, I think there's no better time to put Walker in the team and drop Giroud.
Okie dokie, right. I'll give you all one more question each. And then we've got one that I want everybody to answer. This one is from Mark King, and I'll give this to Jace. If Coquelin is out Saturday, who goes with Santi Cazorla, Arteta or Flamini? And in brackets, Flamini for me all day long.
I agree, but Santi Cazorla's banned, isn't he?
No, it's one game ban, which was yesterday.
It is. All right. To be honest,
because all the competitions count as one. Right. Where they used to be individual.
I'd pick Flamini, yeah, but I wouldn't pick Santi in the middle. To be honest, I think he's been bang average so far this season.
I got on your Santi bandwagon on the radio show last night, Jace.
So you should.
And I said, I don't want him to play anymore. We can't have a team scoring no goals from midfield. He's not doing enough.
He was jogging back in defence on Saturday. Jogging back. Captain calamity. I'm sorry, but, all these people, it's not his job to score. When you've got, it's everybody's job to score goals. If you're in front of goal, he couldn't hit the cow's arse with a banjo. Let's be honest, okay? He never hits the target. He's just, he may be a great passer of the ball, but he doesn't get a one-touch game going. I'm done with him. So there you go. So, yeah, I'd pick Flamini and Rambo in the middle.
Gimli, have you got your power supply plugged in?
No, I haven't. I've been on mute for most of the time, actually. That's not me.
Oh, dear. Okay. Okay, this one I'll give to Raj, because I know he loves the Spurs fans as much as all of us. From Tim Hardwick, who is at Barcelona with an S. Do Spurs fans need anger management treatment?
I think they do. I think they're a disgusting mob. I had a friend of mine who was at the ground yesterday, a young lady, and she posted up a video of the aftermath of the game, and some of the stuff that Tottenham fans tweeted her, referring to being attacked and raped and all that kind of stuff, it's just made my blood boil. It's just disgusting.
Well, saying that, I was listening to it with the Offspring, who's 17, and I said, "Do you listen to that?" She said, "What? That's the Spurs fans shouting at Wenger, 'Sit down, you paedophile.'" She said, "Why are they doing that? It's disgusting." I said, I don't know. There's no real basis in it, is there? I mean, even if there was, it's just completely ridiculous. But that's just some kind of levels they're at.
But can we take 1 second to just have a good laugh at Mickey Hazard? Who
does he support this week? Is it Chelsea or Spurs?
No.
I'm never sure.
I'm not sure if you know about this, Danny. But a lot of Arsenal fans were tweeting at him, and he's literally blanket blocked.
Didn't he block you for no reason?
He blocked. I haven't even said a word to him. Never tweeted at him. Never used his name. Never even spoken to the bloke. Blocked.
He blocked me last year.
Oh, you're living the life.
Is an absolute dickhead, pounding the jar.
Sorry, he's a cockwomble, isn't he? He's an absolute cockwomble.
Worst kind of womble.
Honestly.
I think he
Uncle
blocked
Bulgaria,
Tim Stillman, didn't he? Tim Stillman, who probably has never said a bad word to anyone in his life.
He doesn't even know any bad words. Right, next question. This is to Gimli from Leo Branks. Next summer, Artini and Flamini's contracts expire.
Artini?
Who's Artini?
Who's Artini?
Why have I said that? It says Arteta and Flamini. What did I say? Artini.
Is that the new central midfield pairing? Artini.
They've got a combined. He's got an age of 62. Yeah.
Like Benson and Hedges.
Oh, excellent. All right. Who would you rather stay at the club for an extra year if you had to? Arteta or Flamini or Artini?
Personally, for me, I think Flamini probably brings more. Without last night in mind, I just think when you've got a little bit of fight, or you need a little bit of fight in the team, personally, I'd prefer to have Flamini on instead of Arteta. For me, Arteta is too one-dimensional. I've not seen anyone, pass the ball as square so many times in a game that he does since, I think it was Danielson. And wasn't he nicknamed the Crab? Because he only went sideways.
I think he did.
So, yeah, for me, Flamini.
Okay. Right, one question on all of you to answer from Rob Parrott, who is going on the radio show, I think, this Saturday after the Leicester game. Oh, it's all linking up. Can the panel explain to the fans from around the world why Spurs' rivalry means so much to local Gooners, while many global fans have a more seething hatred for Chelsea or Man U? Perhaps share a quick story about your rivalry experience. You can go first, Raj.
Half my family are Tottenham. They're all bloody raised in Edmonton and stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about a club which is only a couple of miles away from the ground. And there's a lot of families in and around that part of town that are split between the two teams, and so that's where the rivalry started. Plus loads of other things which I can't really go into. It's a local derby, and it's how do you explain it? It's natural. It's a natural hatred of the team. You become an Arsenal fan, you hate that team. If you've supported them long enough, if you've been to the ground as well, and if you've had copped a few beatings off them every now and again, then I can't say anything more, else I'll incriminate myself and I'll be in prison tomorrow.
Jace, any wise words to add to that?
Oh, they're just scum, aren't they? My brother used to live in Enfield, and Enfield and Chingford, and you'd go to the pub and you'd meet them, and you'd try to be decent, and it'd always end up in handbags and.
Did you say humbugs?
Handbags.
Oh, I love humbugs.
And they're just the shit of humanity. It's as simple as that. They're the shit of humanity. So there you go.
Well, there you go. Gimli? Have you ever been to North London and had to put up with it?
I've never been to White Hart Lane, and I'm not sure I'd want to. It's the kind of stadium that you'd wipe your feet on the way out. But no, I think the first thing as an Arsenal fan that you're taught is just that unique style of hatred from them and having to interact with them. For me, when we lost last year, that was like, it's just like a fate worse than death. I just couldn't speak, couldn't eat. I was fucking miserable, biting everybody's head off. I was like that for about 2 weeks after that game. It's just
no change there then.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it's only to you, prick. Another pound in the jar. But no, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth with them and their fans. And for me, anyone that says they hate Chelsea more, nah, just fucking have a word with yourself.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't get how people don't hate Tottenham. I just, even in West Wales, as an Arsenal fan, you bump into a Tottenham fan, and all of a sudden, you're at each other's throats. You just, it's meant to be.
Raj, I have a feeling in my water you might want to add something to this.
I mean, the other thing is that we've been playing Tottenham since like the 19th century. It's over 140 years old, this fixture. So, and it's built up then. I mean, we've got those times where Tottenham got stitched up in getting promoted to Division 1 because Arsenal got selected over them. And this hatred of Chelsea, I'm sure it's only started since Abramovich has got in charge of that club. I don't think there was that. I mean, I've never liked Chelsea anyway, but not this kind of hatred. So I think it's just a sad state, really. It's the modern fan, really, who identify Chelsea as a bigger rival than Tottenham. But it's not about rivalry. It's a historic fixture, you know.
I think it's the delusion behind it as well. I mean, you've got to call anyone a cretin that tries to argue fact. And they think that they're a bigger club with us. They think that they have more potential. Every year they think they're going to finish ahead of us in the league and win more trophies than us. You know, what have they got to their name? A league title back in what? Fucking the 1960s.
It's black and white, no one knows.
And a Capital One Cup. Oh, fuck off. Another back with the tar.
I think the easiest way to explain this, you have two types of rivalries. You have geographical rivalries and you have trophy rivalries. So our trophy rival is Man United, geographical is Spurs, and like all good wars, it's all a dispute about borders. We don't want them in ours.
No. It's emotional as well, you know. I mean, the Chelsea thing is about, oh Christ, they've won more trophies, they've spent £1 billion and all. This is, to the Tottenham thing, is emotional. It's split families, as I said. It's split families over years, and there's just a lot more history to it, really. So that's I think that's why so many Arsenal fans see Tottenham as the big game of the season rather than Chelsea. Chelsea, yeah, because of trophies and stuff, but not in terms of rivalry.
Had we have lost last night, I'd have pulled this podcast. I couldn't have done it. Talking about like 2 losses, 3 straight on the bounce. This wouldn't have gone out. It would have been. It would
have been a good idea not to have done this podcast if we'd lost last night, because I wouldn't have wanted to. When we do lose, we lost last year, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, we lost 2-1.
I tend to just go, you know, for a week. The thing is, as I said, my brother is a Tottenham fan. All my uncles and aunts and my cousins are all Tottenham fans, and they all go to the game. They all go to White Hart Lane every other week. And I've got to switch my phone off. You got to switch your phone off because you're just going to get bombarded. But last night, my phone was on, and I must have sent about 600 text messages because it was, you know. And luckily, as an Arsenal fan, it's more often than not that I'm the one who's sending text messages. Thank you, God, for that.
Well, I think to summarise this, we have a St Tottering's Hams Day. They don't have any equivalent because there'd be no point. Gimli.
Right then, is that all the questions done and dusted?
That'll do, because we've been going nearly 2 hours and we said an hour and a half.
Okay, fantastic. So I just need to grab some predictions for Leicester. So Danny, we'll start with you.
Can I have a prediction that Giroud won't score, or is that not enough?
No, to win the points, you've really got to get it.
1-1, and I think the Ox. I've got a feeling in my water about the Ox.
Fantastic. Raj?
I was going to go 1-1 as well, and I was going to say the Ox, but I change it to Flamini again. I think he's going to score his third goal in 3 days. It's 1-0. I think Leicester's still playing good football at the moment, so it's going to be quite hard to fixture.
Watch out for Mahrez. He's very, very good. He's their key player.
They're doing all right, aren't they? Are they still unbeaten?
Yeah, they're the only unbeaten team in the Premier League.
Could they be the next Invincibles? That's the question.
I think they could well be.
Right.
Sponsored by Walkers.
Lovely stuff. Jace?
I think we're going to beat them 5-1.
What?
I need the
Earth to Jason.
I need the points, okay? And I've just got a feeling Wednesday could be the catalyst for something. I may be wrong.
You're committed.
But I tell you what, 5-1 and Rambo to score first.
Oh, no, might as well said Drew to get them all for us.
My prediction was 7-0 Iwobi.
It was.
But seeing as Iwobi didn't start, thank God I messaged Danny and put 2-1 Giroud, I think it was, or something like that.
I think you did about a minute into the game, so you only get half points.
No, fuck off. That's not right.
Another pound in the jar. Are you incapable of not swearing?
But I'm going for 2-1 to Arsenal with Alexis first scorer. Thank you very much.
Sorry, in all fairness, we weren't trying to swear in this podcast because
we weren't. Well, I haven't.
Because we had Rafi Honigstein on. But when you look at it, the emotional roller coaster of Chelsea and then beating Tottenham.
I think we've done well.
Yeah, I think we've done okay, to be honest.
I mean, no one said cunt so far.
Actually, I'm going to go and find that and I'm going to put a beep over that.
Are you really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't say it again.
That's terrible. I think you'll get a lot of complaints about that. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, from you.
Yeah,
It's
beat
mostly
Michigan.
profanity.
Right, I'm gonna kick us off with the shout-outs before we finish the show, and the first one goes to at the Arsenal shirt, who's helped me out of a very, very big hole this week, and for being a true gent. So go follow him. He's got a very, very good book out. So go and buy that as well. And
Is that Simon?
yes,
Simon Shake Show.
it is indeed. Most people know him as
and
Shaky.
James Elkin, they both wrote. I think they were two that wrote the book.
Yes, and you've got a copy of that
Wonderful,
book,
wonderful
haven't you,
people. I
Danny?
have.
It's very good,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It is, and it's very expensive to post it to America, as Chris found out.
Yeah.
It costs more to post it to America than it is to actually buy it from Amazon in America.
Yeah,
Well done,
you
Chris.
tit. That's 50p. That's not a pound.
He's been kicked out of the Pirate Guild.
Yes. Second shout out is, not many people will know this, as Kate's just alluded to. My second shout out goes to at She War. His lovely missus had a baby this morning.
Congratulations, Gav and Mrs. Gav.
Yes, very early in the morning. So I know he listens. So we'd just like to say a massive congratulations. And yeah, lovely stuff.
Congratulations, Gav.
Well done, Gav.
A young Gooner is born.
Have they called it Flamini?
I don't think so.
Well, it won't be called Olivier, will it? Or Giroud or anything.
No, or Arsene Wenger.
Oh, I killed him after that nonce.
Bless him. Danny, let's have yours.
Mine is going to go to Sim, who is on Twitter as Simply Enigmatic, for this one brilliant tweet. I am voting at the FBAs for at the GFP as best, #new leader when we overthrow Stan. Cheers, Sim, you cheeky monkey. It made me laugh.
But on a serious note, if you wanted to vote for the podcast or the blogs or the radio show at the FBAs, pin tweets on all of the accounts, just click the link. It will take you less than 5 seconds. Give us a vote. Every little helps. We've got about 4 days left to see if we make the final 6. Then it's a new round of voting.
More harassment from us to vote for us.
So
we're Arsenal, so we should win.
Yes, hopefully so. And, get behind all the Arsenal accounts that have entered in the FBAs, just as long as they're not going for blogging, video blog, or podcast. If that's the case, fuck them. Raj.
And they don't have their pictures taken with Diego fucking Costa.
That's not sat well with you, has it?
No, it fucking has.
Hasn't set so with anybody. It's probably to get authenticity to his horrible little autograph. Look at me, I'm special, you silly, silly boy.
I'd wash myself in bleach after
Let's talk about Diego Costa. Not the man, Jippo. Let's talk about Diego Costa.
And the net cost of Diego Costa.
Jace, have you done yours?
Sorry, Raj is next.
I say, Raj, get on with
I
it.
was just about to say, and you just went off on a tangent. Unbelievable.
Sorry, pal. I
I'm going to go off on a tangent before I do my shout out. You guys know that there's that petition to get Dean done, and it's now up to now up to 92,000 signatures. It's only 8,000 short where it is compulsory for Parliament to discuss it.
Oh dear! Don't worry about me. I haven't paid bedroom tax.
The only
back
reason I mention it is
getting
because it's
banned.
the power of Arsenal fans voting in anything. I mean, they made that Balotelli Player of the Year at Liverpool, didn't they?
Well, roughly 10,000 people listen to this, so if everyone voted...
8,000. We need 8,000 more signatures. Go to the parliamentary page or whatever. It's on the Twitter everywhere. Sign up because it has to be discussed at Parliament if it gets 100,000. That has made me laugh all week. That has actually. But my shout out tonight is to at Grumpy Old Gooner, who is Raver Shoyle. He, after 60 odd years of bloody supporting the team, I'm taking the piss out of him. He's finally been offered a season ticket and he's delighted. And I'm hoping that there's a 60 to 1,000 to 1 chance that his seat is next to me, which will ruin his whole Arsenal experience. So cross fingers and good luck, Ray.
Twilight Years sat next to you. Good God.
It could be worse. You could be sat next to Andrew Fife.
Chucking chips at people.
Could you imagine sat next to him for a game? Poor old Mark King.
Apparently, he was in a bar watching the game last night, and there was a group of Tottenham fans on the table, giving him stick. When they equalised, they bought him a bowl of chips or something like that.
A bowl of chips.
Yeah.
Like bastards.
And as Flamini scored the winner, he buys him around Diego bombs and just leaves the building, cool as a cucumber. Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Classic Fife. They've been fifed.
So what else to discuss? I can tell you now what
I got a shout
He hasn't done his shout.
I was on a chat last night with Samira at KAERLIGHED7. Good to chat to, great. I haven't been on Twitter much recently, so Samira's my shout out. Congratulations, Gav. And to the boys, to Rid and Ash, who won the competition last week. It's great to hear them at the end of last week's show.
Yes.
Well done, Raj Patel and Jeff Arsenault.
It was good
Well
fun.
done,
It was
lads.
good fun, actually. Two good lads there, actually. And,
One hell of a gesture. It just shows we keep up with our promises,
Yeah.
or they do.
Rid's from one of the villages not far from where I'm from.
Ponta Dulace.
Ponta de Lice, or the
No.
the Bont, as it's known.
The what?
The Bont.
Eh?
Not a word. I think we should.
He wants to know where the library is. I think.
Hey, boys, don't mess. I'll come up and I'll cut your feet off.
Connolly Draft, Town Centre. Thank you very much. It's the only
Yaki
Welsh
da.
word in 3 years. There's got to be any other news bit. I think there was some more news. Yes, next week's podcast, I can exclusively reveal now, if you're still listening to this and you want to listen next week, our guests will be the one and only Gooner Girl Kate, Mr. at Jeff Arsenault makes his return, and we have the quite superb Rami Shaban back with us.
A lovely, lovely man. He's cuddly and wonderful.
Yes, when we went to booking him, literally, I sent him a DM. Rami, can you come on the show? And if so, pick a date and we'll have you on. He came back within 2 minutes, said, well, what dates can you do? And I said, 1st of October is good with me. He said, book it. So that's why he's on the show. Just an absolutely charming fella. So keep on the lookout for next Thursday about midday. We will be scouting for questions. So get them in and we will be asking the great man himself absolutely anything Arsenal related.
Yeah, he is superb. It's a pleasure to be on with him last time. It really was.
Definitely
Epic.
so. Definitely so. And he's another one of those. He says, I think, everyone that comes on the podcast, they say, isn't it, Danny, when we get a big guest, it's like, oh, I'll give you 30 minutes, and they normally end up staying for longer. Rami
Rafi just gave us an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Rami was like, no, it's all right. Just as long as the podcast goes on, I'm here. I'll answer all your questions. And he just made us feel, so welcome on our own show, if that's, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So all that's left then is to thank my wonderful panellists tonight, Danny, Raj and Jace, and of course the quite superb Rafi Honigstein. That was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
So here's to you, Matthew Flamini. Arsenal loves you more than...
God almighty.
Right, I'm going to
There you go.
pull out at this point.
Yeah,
Thank you very
cheers.
much.
That's brilliant, Rafi. Thank you
Cheers,
so much
Rafa.
for your time.
Cheers, Rafi.
Cheers,
We'll put your
guys.
book on the website, and hopefully you might get a few sales. And I will be buying it myself because I'm really interested in it. It sounds like a great book.
Same here. Cheers, Rafi.
As will I.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
He's superb.
He is.
Always
Right, if I
has
can
been,
have
Jace.
about 10 seconds of silence, just so then I'll be able to pick up exactly where I need to cut it from.
Okay.
Right, that should do. I'll be able to see that.
Sorry again, what did you say there, Matt?
What's that? I was just saying, Rafi, every time he comes on, he's always been just such a gentleman and absolutely superb.
Oh, I'll
He's
tell
a
you.
lovely bloke.
Really interesting, eh?
Did you call him Rami at one point, Jace?
I did.
I don't think he heard you, so luckily.
That's next week.
I got tongue-tied.
I always get Podolski and Royce and Schalke. What's his name? Draxler.
Cologne.
Yeah, Draxler. And Draxler was at Schalke, and Podolski was
Danny,
at...
they're not Schalke, they're Schalke.
Well, same fucking thing. You knew
Not
what I meant.
Schalke.
By the way, boys, I'd just like to point out, great minds think alike, but Raj Patel, I got in before you.
Yeah, but he didn't expand on the Mertzacker thing. I had a Colkin one. Do you know why he got rejected for military service?
Too tall for the tank.
Yeah, he couldn't fit into a tank. Yeah.
Who couldn't?
Mertesacker.
It's a Saka.
Oh.
It's a classic. It's an absolute classic, that.
Yeah, brilliant.
Anyway, what's the agenda now?
The agenda is Chelsea, Tottenham. Whether we do Twitter questions or not depends on time. I would say we had Rafi for longer than we thought we were going to. So
How many Twitter questions have we got?
you could have as many or as few as you want. It's a case of Danny going through and maybe picking the best 3 and doing quick fire with them.
Sorry, when we talk about Chelsea, if you come to when you come to me, ask me about Mourinho talking about rugby when he was trying to defend Costa. Just ask me about that.
Okay.
Because are we swearing in this part of the podcast, or are we keeping it?
No, I think with the awards coming up, people might say, "Oh, Rafi," and then say, "Oh,
yeah.
They might listen to one of these."
Cool. I just want to know where we're setting a stall up for this one.
Maybe because
no swearing on any podcast, and then it'd be nice and classy.
Are you fucking calling me not fucking classy, Lev?
You're a fucking cunt, mate. Anyway, don't put that in there anyway. But,
yeah, I'll delete that.
What was I saying? Yeah, I'll just really... bloody hate analysis. I'll just jump in as and when. Jason, you go for it, and then...
To be honest with you, the Chelsea game is more analysis on the actual melee regarding Costa and Gabriel than it is actually talk on the match, because at the end of the day, had the right decision been made, the end result wouldn't have been the same. So, Chelsea is a very short bit where we talk about, it's talking more about Costa and Gabriel than it is actually the game, whether he's the hero or the villain, whether it was nice to see him actually show a little bit of passion by sticking up for Koscielny.
Why doesn't Jason start with that one off, and I'll do the Tottenham one? I'll start the Tottenham off and then lead on to Jason after that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, boys. I'm happy with that.
Okay, then.
And I'll just interrupt it, as is my habit.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So we'll go, Danny. I'm going to bring you into this more because there's not a third person. I'm gonna be chucking some of the questions your way as well. All right?
Well, yeah. Just butt in and just talk. Just if we could keep an eye on Skype messaging, we'll just get everyone just as a go of it. Be a good laugh. This one.
Well, you know that it's either a case of if you say, "Oh, I can build on that" or something, then I'll link you to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it sounds better if I'm not always going, "Oh, and Jace, what do you think of that? Oh, Raj, you've got something to say." But do you know what I mean? If we can kind of lead on to a bit of healthy debate where people aren't being prompted, then it just flows better.
Well, I'm terrible at interrupting, so just leave me to it. Don't worry.
Okay, right. We'll go again then, Danny. If you want to do your whatever seconds of silence and just start.
No, I can go from where you left it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just carry on.
How long are we doing this for then? Just out of curiosity.
We've done an hour, so this will be
an hour,
half
hour-ish, 45 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
No more than 45 minutes.
Yeah, because that Honigstein bit was very good actually. So.
It was superb. I loved the questions, and I just loved the way he embraces it, doesn't he?
This time I didn't racially offend him or any of his kin by claiming that Podolski is really Polish.
Do you know what? I wanted to come back in regarding the 2006 World Cup because that game with Argentina, I think, was pivotal. You know what I mean? Where there's a fracas at the end and what have you, all of a sudden everybody's on Germany's side. It was superb. I was chanting for the Germans that World Cup.
So was I.
I always chant for the Germans every World Cup because England are so piss poor.
I can't comment, boys.
Even though I've got Italian blood in me, and I was going for the Italians this World Cup, I was shit out of luck because they were out a game afterwards. So I was
Italian.
fine.
I thought you had Hobbit blood in you.
No. I've actually got Italian blood in me, and it's not hepatitis C.
There's a echo. Can you hear someone hear an echo?
Yes, I can hear an echo.
Okay. I can't.
I can. I could hear it every now and then. Didn't want to say anything.
Okay, let's rock.
Let's do it.
Let's go then, boys. Danny, you lead from the front.
Put my controller down. And here we go.
Hold on.
Alright, go back to the top of the page. What you done?
Just opened a beer.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, this week our under-18s, they lost 2-1 to Fulham